Hello, this is Elvi from Comic Book Bin, Philly Win since 2002. We're going to be looking at the Ferret today. Yeah, I just got the Ferret last week. I'm pretty late on getting them because the day they were on order on Hasbro Pulse, I put some in my cart. I went to do other stuff. I forgot about them. By the time I came back, they were sold out. Although it is my fault for not just going through with the purchase on the spot. I will say I'm a bit pissed at Hasbro for only leaving the Ferret just a few hours, one evening like that, and not even allowing it to remain for a few more days so that people could just order it. So if you weren't there that evening, you weren't online checking, buying on the spot, you didn't get a Ferret. Now for months I was hoping that Hasbro would re-release it. They've done that with other exclusive to the Hasbro Pulse store in the past. They just make a new run or something like that. Nothing. And what prompted me to go out and buy those overpriced Ferret, yeah, I just funded a couple of scalpers, is the fact that they just removed the Ferret entirely from the g.i.joe classified page. As long as the Ferrets were on the g.i.joe classified page, I was like, well, it's okay, maybe they'll reissue it or something like that. But the moment they take out something from that page, you know it's gone. And whether they're gonna re-release it in the future or not, we don't know. I don't like the way Hasbro is playing its games with collectors like me. We've been supporting this line forever, and I feel a bit screwed. Those people who had those Ferrets were probably not hardcore collectors. They just got their Ferrets. Well, enough with the negativity. Let's go look at this toy. I'm pretty happy with it. It's a nice toy. Let's do it. Alright, let's review this thing further. In terms of likeness, the Ferret is the same Cobra Blue or similar of the original Ferret. It has a long range weapon. Well, this one I believe is a laser weapon in the back and a small laser weapon here. Control panel here. Levers, everything. Thick tires. And a very rudimentary armor on top of a very lightweight structure, the motor being here. The exhaust here, just like the traditional vehicle from Hasbro. And of course those two missiles on the side here that don't make any sense, that have no front and no back. The way I think of them is that they're pegged on a hydraulic system with springs, and that just pushes the missile really far sideways from the Ferret, and those act like mines. So they're more like mines. They're missiles, and they're expelled very quickly. That's how I see them. Now, the original Ferret did not have a driver. The usual drivers were Storm Shadow and Firefly. The Scout has a driver. We see it, the drivers here. And they're both female. It would have been fun if Hasbro had made male drivers to the Scouts. Although I have to mention that the Scouts are the same gray or grayish, the same color pattern as the drivers for the Stinger. So you can use them together if you want. You can exchange them and so on. Although that helmet may not fit on a Stinger driver. Now the body of the Scout is the same mold used for the Valkyries, which is why if you look carefully here, you'll see that I've already switched the heads of one of my, well, I was going to call her Valkyrie. One of the Scouts has the black head instead of the Caucasian head to give more diversity to my collection. I've got several of those extra heads because I bought so many Valkyries, and the Valkyrie set came with several different heads that you could use, so that's why it's easy for me to reuse those heads, especially as they're exactly the same mold and they fit pretty well. So this is the likeness. It really looks like the old vehicle. If you compare it to a similar size 112 APV, you'll notice that the Ferret is much bigger than this guy, which I bought earlier when I didn't think that they would make the Ferret. Well, was hoping that would make it, but then I got this guy and I use it for the Joes. It's much smaller. Of course, the Scout would probably fit better on this guy. They really have to bend a lot in order to reach there. There is storage for weapons here, bows and stuff, but that's the extent of it. There's nothing else. It's much smaller, as you can see. It does have a spring-based system also, but I will say the Hasbro ATV is more for your bang, your buck, more imposing, and will fit bigger figures too. It's probably a better military system also. So I like the sculpt, like I said. Pretty simple sculpt. Now the missiles here, some of them tend to bend already. You can see the stress on some of them. I don't know why, I just put them in the pegs and that's what happened. So they're not of good quality. I have to watch out for that. There's practically no paint on the Ferret. I mean, there is some signs, logo, and so on, but that's it. It's all base plastic, so nothing particular in the paint department. In terms of scale, like I mentioned, this thing is way bigger than another 112 like ATV. As you can see, this one is also 112 but much smaller, and like I said, that's good. Stability isn't an issue. This thing has springs. It's really fun. It's very playable. Can you do a lot with your Ferret? Well, you can't rotate the wheels. That would have been fun, but you can rotate this weapon, and the turret here, the controller, can move a bit. Doesn't go up and down, but moves from side to side. The handles here don't move either. What does move is the weapon here, the machine gun, whatever, laser thing, whatever that is. That one moves. It would have been fun if they had given us some ammo that we could include in them. Use one of the standard g.i.joe designs, so we could just put bullets in them. That's not what they decided to do. The figure itself, let's look at her. Like I mentioned, it's the exact same figure as a Valkyrie. Of course, you're going to see a Valkyrie head on this one. It's a little bit difficult to remove the helmet. Here we have a Valkyrie head. This is the helmet. You can see the fangs here. Really nice. As you can see, the heads are the same. It's just the paint that is different between the two of them, and with the helmet it will cover the blue here, so you can give yourself more diversity if you want. Of course, some of the styling on the mask here will be different. There's a little bit of silver here, there's none there.
but you won't even see that because it's mostly covered by the helmet anyway. In terms of articulation, what's up with this figure? Well, the build, like I mentioned, it's a regular Cobra Valkyrie body. And it's fun that they start to reuse the Cobra Valkyrie body on different characters. Is there anything special about this Scout? Not much. Can raise her arms. They're a bit stiff. She does have good butterfly joint. Double elbow articulation. Really smooth. Swivel. Bicep. Up and down articulation on the wrist. On this one. Same thing for that one. A belt that keeps on floating. She has armor here on her chest to protect her. You'll notice that I've given her this weapon holster. It's the one that comes with the Stinger driver, but I felt that the red here would fit well with the red pattern here. And since she doesn't have a backpack, you could probably give her an extra weapon and she could use it and store it here. So as opposed to only getting 2 small pistols, she could have a much larger machine gun or rifle that she could use, because on the top of her ferret she's pretty limited and an easy target. So at least by giving her an extra weapon here that she can sport on her back, you just solve a big problem. You've given her a new lease on life. The waist here has a ball joint. It's the same as all female characters, so there is a crunch here. It's not a crunch, it's another ball peg here, but it doesn't move too much. The legs are pretty flexible with a drop down hip, double knee articulation, pretty smooth. She comes with an extra knife. It's not painted, unfortunately. Swivels at the top of her boots and full articulation in the ankles. It's not easy to pause her on the ferret. She tends to not stay there. She doesn't sit snugly the way I would like her to. But she can put the handles on her hand. One thing I've decided to do, because I've got so many female ninjas and they keep on falling from my shelf, I don't know what to do with them anymore. Even on peg stands, they fall. I've decided that every scout would have a backup in the back in the form of a blue ninja character. Same thing for this one. So she's gonna get a friend in the back like I mentioned, this figure would normally just fall off my shelf. They keep falling, those two. So why not use them this way? Part of the reason that they fall is because their backpack is so top heavy. The bow and arrow backpack. So now you get a second person, and it will remind you a bit of Storm Shadow, who also used to ride on those things. So this is the Cobra Ferret with the Scout. It's a very difficult vehicle to get these days because Hasbro did not allow collectors to buy them in huge quantities. If you do find one, it will be overpriced stock from probably overseas or something from a scalper, someone reselling it at a huge profit. Of course, I don't condone this, but if you want something like that, where else can you find it? There was nothing cheaper than what I got. I made do with what I found. This vehicle has been reused already with the Tiger Paw. I haven't received mine from GameStop. After getting this one, I don't mind if GameStop never fulfills my order. Not because I don't like what I've got, but these things take a lot of space and might as well just save the space. It is nice, it's beautiful, but I don't need an army of them. I think 2 is enough in my case. Space is becoming a concern, and 112 vehicles like that are difficult to collect. They're a bit pricier, and when companies like Hasbro don't make them available, there's less incentive to support these things. Hasbro fell on the golden goose. They found out that people will support 112 vehicles, but they're trying to milk us as much as possible. Usually that turns bad when collectors like me are pissed and we start to rethink and say, well, if they make another version of this, I'll just skip it. It's not a good sign for Hasbro. They should probably change some of their strategy and be more aware of where the average collector is at. I don't usually complain, but this time I had to. Like and subscribe. This is Hervé from Comic Book Bin, filling you in since 2002. See you next time.